Let's tear this intake off. My extension does not want to stay on my impact. Getting the fuel rails off. I'm going to try to do this without removing as little of the accessories and such as I have to. Just whatever lines I got to break loose, and kind of try to slide everything out of the way instead of taking it all the way off. Take this fuel line off here. And there's probably gonna have to do the same over here. And then the return. So I can get those out of the way. Looks like a 15 or 17. It is. Try not to lose the washers on the banjo bolts. There's one on the bottom. Got to take the throttle linkage off. My old snap-on electric tools are starting to lose their guts. What?
I don't need to mop the floor anymore. I bet you could get views on YouTube like this.
It's live. Sometimes the hand tools are faster. No washer on that banjo bolt. That's promising. I guess it hasn't leaked all this time, so who am I to judge? Return line. I love Toyota, but they could have just put the starter under the truck like everybody else. I'm sure there's some engineering advantage to this that I just don't want to believe in because I have to pull my intake manifold to do a starter. When I was a teenager with small block Chevys and big block Chevys, everything was a starter job was like 15-20 minutes. Instead, this is going to be hours. Maybe not hours, but you know what I mean. Extended time. But I want to get this done because I would like to take the boat out today. It's been a couple weeks. We've had some hurricane. I would prefer to use the boat instead of just working on it all the time. Although I do like working on it. Alright. So that side's loose enough that I think I'll be able to, yeah, pull the intake manifold up out of it. Same thing here. Loose out of the way. Curious of how this crossover fuel line stays, but alright. Guess I just start pulling intake bolts and see what happens. See what we have to get out of our way. I'm sure some stuff like this breather and such will have to come up. $13. What's long, hard, and 9 inches? This extension. That is not the 13, that's a 15. That explains why it's large. Oh, 12. Let's try the 12. The goal today is to not drop anything down into the heads. You know? As long as we don't have to make more work for ourselves, we'll be in good shape. I would have preferred to do this with the impact, but I've got the battery charging. And I guess this gives me a little control. I do like working on this Toyota, even though, like I said, some things are a little more packed in than they need to be, because opposed to the northern vehicles I worked on all my life, all the bolts come out of this. Nothing's really rusted up. I'm saying that before I get them all out, so that probably was a bad idea. But in the past, everything I've ever worked on has come apart without, being rusted in or stripping or cracking off. Now, I haven't ever pulled the exhaust manifolds or anything, so I'm sure that those are probably a different story just because of heat cycles, but at least it's not salted. I do like that the intake manifold does not have that many bolts. Is there a back bolt there? So that's a perk. I thought I only needed to remove the upper plenum last weekend. Yeah, last weekend. So I only had an upper plenum gasket set, thinking that this was one piece and then the runners would just be left standing there. But after I got everything apart, found out the hard way, the upper plenum is just half of the tunnel here, so there's still plenty of intake manifold in my way. While I'm up here, I might as well get the back on the other side, so I don't have to crawl up here twice. Some of these are nuts, some of them are bolts, just to help line up the intake in your gaskets for assembly. Looks like the ends are nuts and the bolts are across the middle. I'll take that one all the way loose, I don't want to drop it. Oh, getting ready to drop it. Hit the ground. Call that a win. The big thing was I dropped it away from the center of the motor. Even though with the intake manifold off, we should have pretty easy access to everything there. Get this throttle out of our way. I know everything's electric steer these days, but something like a good old mechanical connection gives me a little peace of mind. Your power's on. I love having power on. I was going to do this either way, but thankfully with the hurricane, we only lost power for... Ooh, that one's kind of tight. I don't love that. We only lost power for about 2 days. And with the generator, I wire it right to the house, so it's not the end of the world. We don't have air conditioning. But we don't have air conditioning, but we can still take hot showers and turn lights on and cook and stuff like that. It doesn't look like it's stripped. It was just a little cruddy. Nuts kind of warm taking it off. And like a warm nut, I guess. Let's get these other bolts. Traditionally, people probably aren't doing this job with their shirt off and barefoot, but this is Florida, and I try to basically do everything with my shirt off and barefoot. It's just a freer way of life, I think. Not hippy-dippy kind of free, but like however you want it, I guess. No shoes, no shirt. Truck's getting service. What do you think the chances are I'm going to be able to lift this intake up now that I got what I think is all the bolts out? Take this hose, knock that loose. I'm going to take this off. Probably can do that right now. And then I'm going to probably try to lift the intake this way, so I will take the hoses from that side off. Let's see where that one's going. So far I've only had to use a 12 for pretty much everything. There was a 13 for a couple bolts that have been replaced, so they had a little size, larger head size. And then a 10 for the hose clamp. Other than that, 17 on the gas lines. Not too many tools so far. That's why we love Toyota. Pliers, get this loose. Yummy. All right. I'm gonna pull the hoses from that side. Let's see what happens when we try to lift this intake. Oh, nice. Hose down here under the throttle body. They run coolant through the throttle bodies for colder climates to help warm up the intake for cold starts. So there are a couple small coolant lines, an inlet and a return down here. Could be the other way around. I haven't actually checked the flow of how it goes. Loose. You can hear my coolant reservoir bubbling as it's letting all the coolant that's higher than that hose I just released off. Get this guy out of the way. We're probably going to have to unhook everything so I can just pick the intake up out of here. I'm trying to do more of these lives for my, weekend activities that I do, just quite often. That way I can just kind of connect with people. Just about to hit that 5,000 subscriber mark, so, and I still answer all the comments, the ones that YouTube doesn't block because somebody's telling me I'm doing something wrong. which I very might well be. More coolant. I didn't have to unhook that, I guess it's not part of the intake, but it's out of the way. What are we holding up on? It's pretty loose. This cable in here. I think we are loose. Hello there. So what was that? 20 minutes, remove the intake manifold. Guess you can't complain about that. Considering I've never done it before. Alright, like I said, our goal is to not drop anything down the intake. So what I'm going to do is make sure that none of these gaskets are loose. This one's on the intake manifold. That's like what you don't want to drop in there. Just loose stuff up here on the head. I'm sure the Toyota would run another 200,000 miles with it, but let's avoid. Throw this stuff out. Start looking at what holds this starter on. If you were concerned you had loose stuff up here, put a little tape across the intake gaskets, just so there's no open holes into here. But everything's pretty cleared off, it looks like. Grab my new starter and look at the mount. Alright, here's the new starter. Threaded insert. So it looks like the bolts come from the outside into that. Other than that, looks like a plug and a couple studs. This one we probably don't have to do anything with. FedEx was really hard on my box, so this boot's a little ripped. We might replace it with the one off the other starter. See where we're at. So I am going to, appears that it sits in here like this. So it should just be relatively accessible. Hopefully it's not like a weird type of hardware. And the weirder part is that doesn't look like my starter. This is getting irritating. Serious? I ordered an alternator, tried doing that. It's the wrong alternator. I verified that this starter said it was for my ear. Be pretty. Oh, these are Velcro gaskets. Somebody's already done the intake. I'd be kind of irritated if the starter wasn't right. Looks like a very strange bolt with a big head on it. 13 there, or 14. Let's go with 13. That seems to be one of the common sizes. Nope. 15. Appears to be a 14. Yep. Of course, I don't have one up, so I had to climb down and get one. I'm going to be annoyed if that starter's wrong. So yeah, a little reach extension. Maybe I can use one. Nope. Really hoping that not the wrong starter. It's not so much the half an hour wasted that I don't like, it's just the tearing stuff apart and putting it back together. Doing things twice has never been my favorite. There we go. Oh, I thought I was gonna need leverage for that. That's pretty light. Wouldn't recommend doing this with a cheesy, cheap ratchet. Snap-on's nice, lots of teeth. You know, you loosen one bolt and the whole starter's moving. That's not promising. Somebody must have done it before. Is the other bolt even in there? That is, it's just very loose, I guess. Gotta love used trucks. I have a feeling putting this back in is going to be equally annoying. has enough resistance, I don't think I can hand thread it out. Here's, I'm getting my ratchet stuck. Not really a great place to work from here. Oh. Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. That's really loose. Hopefully I can finger finger it out of there. What a strange bolt. Well, glass bolt. Alright, that looks really loose. Okay. Because I'm going to be playing with the positive wire, I better have the ground off for the battery. Take a look at this thing. Alright, ground's disconnected from the battery. Looks like we got a 1-wire plug. Okay, that I can live with. It looks like on the other one, the power's on the other side, so the main thing is do we have clearance? You know? I don't know what happened to the blood, but it just vanished. All right. All right. Freaking different. How do I get this luck? All right. I'm gonna figure out what the heck to do. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this helped if you need to do it, but hopefully you have the right starter. Thanks, eBay. 2 for 2.